Footle, or Found, is an archive film project that we've been running for a number of years. We kind of were doing some research on archive film of the Outer Hebrides and discovered that none of the archive film in the National Library of Scotland that featured the Outer Hebrides was made from an islander perspective. It was all, to every last film, it was all from an outsider perspective, and we wanted to redress that by locating as much kind of indigenous archive film, home movies from the latter part of, or indeed from the whole of the 20th century. We had originally discovered a collection of black and white 8mm film taken by the late Dr. Alex MacLeod, who was the only GP in North Uist from the 1930s right through to the 1970s. And his family had unearthed this collection of film reels in the attic, and we were making a documentary about his life at the time, and that was fantastic insight into his life, actually, to be able to show moving image of Uist and, in fact, him and his doctor's practice. It really brought the thing to life, and we were fairly sure that there was other archive film out there, and in fact, ever since then, it's 7 years ago. Since then, we've been trying to locate old home movie archive film, as well as early video collections. There's over 100 hours of amazing taped reel-to-reel videotape as part of a project called Cinemaskira, which was run in the late 70s in Uist by Mike Russell, now the MSP Mike Russell. He started up this very early community video project here, and that is awaiting digitisation at the moment with the National Library of Scotland now. Last year, to get onto what we're showing at Hebrides International Film Festival this year, last year we were offered a collection of film, 8mm colour silent film, from the 60s and 70s, mostly shot on Berneray by a couple, Bill and Ann Scott, who came to Berneray practically every year on an annual holiday. And we crowdfunded to get the film digitised, which we did at the beginning of this year, and we're now beginning to kind of show the film to people. Initially, to local people. It was a real pleasure. Gloria McKillop was the person who donated the footage to the Archive Film Project. The reels contained footage of her wedding in 1968, which she'd never seen before.
Wow.
It was really magical to see her reaction to it. She was overjoyed. And it is just a fantastic collection of film that really just is a beautiful window into life on the island of Berneray at that time. Very much a time of change. There was no causeway then, of course. and so the ferrymen are very heavily featured in the film reels, and you see people over the 2 decades that the film was shot through. You see people growing, aging, and there's several of the younger people in the films are still with us today, and it's been great to get their reactions to seeing the film, and to be able to identify lots of people and places in the films as well. I think it's hugely important, along with other kind of historical artifacts and documentation. Moving image, and especially I would say this more kind of indigenous moving image is a real, as I said before, a window into what people's lives were like at that time. They, my kids found it incredible that their grandfather had to collect water from a well, from the neighbouring village when their well was dry in the summer, and that wasn't, that was, well, perhaps in the 40s, but within living memory, and and there's been such a huge amount of change in the islands, especially over the latter part of the last century, and I think it's really important to be able to show that, to let people see, and especially from that indigenous perspective, because that really is the perspective of the filmmaker is really it's a very selective one, and a lot of the films in the National Library of Scotland tend to romanticise life in the islands. Absolutely. I mean, there is a slight point that the people, Bill and Anne Scott, who shot these films back in the 60s and 70s, did not live on Berneray. But Anne Scott family was from Berneray.